Don't mind my kids, they're in the pool right out there, and at least they're not. You hear any yelling, that's my kids playing in the pool. Anyways, I'm here to do the donut book tag. Hey, I'm Michelle with Michelle Loves Books. Welcome back to my channel. So for the first time, I have been tagged to do a book tag by the lovely Mahalia at Nerd It This Way. I will leave her channel linked below, as well as the creator of this tag, Josh, at the Literary Gladiators. Josh actually has a whole series of foodie book tags. If you have like a favorite food, he probably has a tag for it. So you might want to go over to Josh's channel and check that out. And I was pretty excited to see that I got tagged for this. I know it seems kind of silly, but it's been the first time I've actually been like chosen to participate in something and called out like that. So that was really exciting for me to see that. It's kind of one of those like milestones when it happens for the first time. You just feel like that much more connected to the community. Anyways, I was really excited. I wanted to go ahead and do this tag. So if I waited too long, I might not get it done. My cheeks are like super pink. It's like really hot in here. And I kind of wanted to do something cool for this video, like bring in actual donuts, but then like I'd probably eat them all, and like that's probably not a good idea for me. Let's go ahead and get into the questions. So question number 1, a classic. So a classic book you feel that everyone needs to read. Really was gonna go with Pride and Prejudice, just because that's one of my personal favorites, but I don't really feel like that's for everybody. Another one of my favorites is Shakespeare's King Lear. I fell in love with that story. It was like so engaging. It was so messed up, and it shows you like what being selfish is about. And King Lear, I would say, is one of my favorite Shakespeare pieces. Yeah, I believe it was one of the first ones I read, and I felt like it was paced really well, because then we went and read Hamlet. I felt that Hamlet was a lot slower moving, and it was really hard to get into. So yeah, I think King Lear, I think that even if you have never read Shakespeare, that King Lear would be one of those ones that's also really easy to get into. Question number 2, Vanilla Frosted. A simple, engaging work. This one was only challenging just because it was hard to only pick one. I would have to say Seafire. This I wouldn't necessarily say is simple per se, but it's just a lot of fun. It's a quick read. It's easy to read when you have a lot of other stuff going on. If you get interrupted, it's easy to pick up and get right back. So that's why I categorize this one as like a simple and engaging work. Also, it's action-packed. It's super fun, but there is a really interesting plot line with it too, because I didn't want to pick a book that's like plot line is weak. So yes, I would say Seafire for this one, and I'm actually in the middle of book 2 called Steel Tide. So that one I'm gonna be planning on finishing this month. Wait, this month? There's only one more day left in this month. I don't think I'm gonna finish it this month, but maybe by the end of this weekend. Question number 3 is Chocolate Frosted. A second favorite work from your favorite author. Now this one was pretty easy because sadly I have to say I haven't read very many multiple works from many authors. I would say I could probably count the authors I've read like a series and then something else they've read on one hand. But I would definitely have to say that this is a new recent favorite author, and I have read the Grisha trilogy, and I've read The Six of Crows and King of Scars as well. Picking between my favorite Six of Crows or Grisha trilogy, that was difficult, and I would have to put Shadow and Bone as number 2 as my favorite, just for the simple fact, like this one is so good, and I love a trilogy. I don't know what it is about a trilogy, but there's like just the perfect amount of books for me to really get like immersed in that world, but not feel like it's too long and not feel like it's rushed. So I really like a trilogy. You can compare it to a lot of other YA with the relationship dynamics, with the chosen one tropes and things like that. But I love those tropes, and I loved these books. These did still stand out, and the world I felt was a lot more complex than a lot of those other trilogies. So I think that that's what made Leigh Bardugo stand out to me in the beginning. But then I read Six of Crows, and just the quality and the tight writing, so precise, like a puzzle and a maze, everything to figure out. And it was just my new all-time favorite book is Six of Crows. So this would have to come in at number 2 for my favorite work by the same author. All right, the next 2 questions kind of go along with that, which is kind of funny. Question number 4 is Strawberry Frosted, a lesser known or studied work from a known writer that you feel should be read and studied more frequently. I'm gonna have to say Leigh Bardugo again for this, but for her lesser known works, I recently just read a short story, which is actually the answer for another question. Yeah, I just finished reading Summer Days and Summer Nights, and it's a collection of 12 short stories, love stories that are kind of about, and I talked about this in another wrap-up, my Hocus Pocus wrap-up, which is literally my last video, but it's like summer days and summer nights. It's kind of like all these stories kind of take place over the summer, and as it's closing up, you get a bunch of different authors, but Leigh Bardugo writes the first story in that, like, it was so good. It was my first short story collection as well, and I chose it specifically because of Leigh Bardugo. And now I've been kind of looking into more short story collections because I had so much fun with that book. But I've noticed she's in a lot of these short story collections, as well as a lot of other authors I've seen, but I never really hear anyone talking about them. I would say definitely short stories by Leigh Bardugo. Question number 5 is Glazed, a writer that immediately immersed you. Do I need to say it again? Leigh Bardugo. Question number 6, Jelly. A work that continued. My writing is so sloppy, I can't even read my own writing. Okay. Question number 6, Jelly. A work that contained more than you expected. Summer Days and Summer Nights. 12 love stories. This was just so exciting. I loved pretty much, there was only about 3 stories I attempted to read, and I ended up skipping it because I didn't want to like get bogged down when I was having so much fun with the story, with the book. 9 out of 12 is pretty darn good. I loved every single one of those stories. Question number 7, Boston Cream, scholarly work you would recommend to a casual reader. I would say Shakespeare again. Most people study Shakespeare in high school. I went to 3 different high schools, so maybe I missed something, but none of my schools ever taught Shakespeare. Also, that was 2 different states and 3 cities. So I was all over the place in high school. And no, I'm not an army brat or anything like that. I get unsettled and I wanted to move. I didn't actually study it until college. I took it because I needed an extracurricular, and it was one of my favorite classes. I loved it. And then I was thinking, maybe I should have gone for an English degree over a paralegal degree. But I love that I have a paralegal degree, but like, I don't know. I haven't done anything with it. But the reason I would say that I recommend it is just because it's still relevant today. I feel like because it's a play, you're not bogged down with a whole lot of extra descriptions, and there is still a lot of vocabulary that you may not understand, but they do make the no fear versions. Actually, let me grab one. It's my favorite way to read Shakespeare. Now, these aren't the only ones. Anything that's a parallel text is good, but these are my favorite, are the no fear versions of Shakespeare. That's the thing about Shakespeare, is that his characters are so amazing, and especially considering that they are just dialogue, and he can still convey so much about their motivations and about their character without writing any background story. And like, that's just incredible to me. People and their motivations and the things that trigger them, that make them angry, and how they respond to their anger, to their grief, to greed, those things are still relevant today, and that is why, like, Shakespeare, I feel, is actually really important. So I love me some Shakespeare. Question number 8 is a cruller. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. It's like one of them fancy donuts. A work that makes you think of France. For this one, I'm gonna have to pick a childhood book. It was a book that my grandmother got me when I was about 14 or 15 called Le Chat. I took 1 year of French in high school, but I was just in love with the idea of France and speaking French and the culture and everything. And so my grandmother, she bought me this little book called Le Chat. It's basically the cat, like a children's book. And it just says, like, the cat plays with the ball. The cat jumps on the counter. It's all about being a cat, but it's written in French. And then it has the English translation in it. And it was kind of a beginner tool to learning French. And I just love that book so much. And I think I have it somewhere. My grandmother bought it for me. And then right after she got that for me, she took me to Quebec, Canada. Quebec? I'm sorry. I've spent years thinking you were supposed to pronounce it Quebec. And then somebody just told me that you're supposed to pronounce it Quebec. So however you're supposed to pronounce it. She took me to Quebec, Canada. That area is all very like French Canadian, and it is just so wonderful. Like, it's so beautiful there. Everyone speaks like French and English, and it's just great. I loved it. I loved it. That trip. It was one of my favorite trips ever. And no, I can't speak French, so as you could probably tell. Question number 9. Powdered Sugar, a work that left you with evident emotions. I talked about this book back in July. Is it July? Somewhere this summer, I read this book, The Curiosities by Susan Gloss. It made me cry my freaking eyes out. But this one was like so heart-wrenchingly sad. Like 3 times I had to put this book down to go cry it out. Question number 10, cider. A perfect reading material to read in front of a fire in autumn. Honestly, it was kind of a toss-up between Stalking Jack the Ripper and The Night Circus, but I think I'm leaning more towards Stalking Jack the Ripper, and just because it just feels like more fall. This book was much more engaging as well, whereas this one was definitely a little bit harder to get into. It's a little bit more slower moving. Question number 11, Donut Holes. A collection of short, accessible works or sections that you enjoyed. Now, I wasn't 100% sure about this question, so I'm going with short stories. And since I've already said Summer Days and Summer Nights, I'm gonna go with another short story collection. Well, novellas. That would be Through the Dark is a collection of novellas that go along with Alexandra Bracken's Darkest Minds series. These novellas, okay, I actually haven't even read all of them, but I read the first 2 of them. I feel like these did a lot better job offering a lot more information to a series. So that's why I chose that one. Question number 12, Raspberry Frosted, a book you would recommend to Homer Simpson. Now, Homer Simpson's pretty much supposed to be like a big dumb guy. I'm gonna say either a pop-up book, an illustrated book, or like an ABC book. Yeah. Question number 13 is, what is your favorite donut? So I'm really simple when it comes to the flavor of donut that I like. And I like those buttermilk ones. And they're like just really simple. They're more breaded instead of like that fried donut. That's my favorite donut. That's about my only donut that I ever really go for. And question number 14, time to make the donuts. Who do you tag? And honestly, I don't know that many people to tag, and so I don't want to tag anyone who like would feel obligated to have to do it. So I tag anybody who watches this. If you want to do it, do it. And that wraps up the donut book tag. This was pretty fun, and now I'm really craving a donut.